laddies, welcome back. Now I have trimmed my neckline on my top I'm making. Now I'm going to turn this all the way through to the right side, and I'm going to show you why I do this method. So I have completely trimmed back halfway. I've hardly got any neckline left of my binding, and the reason why I do that, because I'm going to bring this binding all the way to my right side. So I'm just going to bring the binding all the way over like that, and then you just roll it back and it sits perfectly where that binding should sit flat. Do not go and iron this, okay? So here's the binding here. Here's your binding on the wrong side. I turn it to the right side and I completely roll my binding right over so that my seam allowance is on the right side, and then gently roll it back and my binding will sit beautiful and flat, and I do not iron it. So I'll get up and show you. I'm going to do it right round and I will pin. So right side facing you, the binding, bring it over, right over like that so you can see your wrong side of your fabric, and then just gently roll it back and it will sit beautifully. It just, I don't know, it just sits beautifully. It's just a method I like to. All of these bent pins in my pin container, it's not very good. And then I just roll it back, and it's very, very easy. You don't even have to think. You don't have to roll it forward and back once you've learned how to do it. You just do it. So it just sits naturally in the right place because of the trimming. So I'll show you again. Let's come back around where you can see it. So there's my cut edge. Bring it right over and then just roll it back if you need to. And I can see where my join is, and that's fine, but you can hardly see it with the method that we did. So I just go to there, bring my binding over and roll it flat. There we are. I'm getting rid of the bent pins as I go. Isn't it funny how you get them every so often? You get a whole run of them. So roll it over and then roll it back. And there's your seam, and there we are. Very, very easy. I do the same method on the sleeves as what I've showed you here. So I won't be doing the sleeves as well, but I will show you how to do the hem and the side seam. Okay, so just rolling it around, very, very easy. Now, if you don't want to have it top stitched on the top, you could do this method the other way around. Stitch it on the right side and roll it to the wrong side, and you would end up with a gorgeous little piping on the right side. So I'll just, gosh, I've thrown out about 6 pins so far. These are my classroom ones, so they're really obviously got a bit hammered. So I'm not having to iron this at all, and I prefer not to iron it because I think it sits better. There's another one. I think it sits better. The reason why your pins get bent like that is because you try and push them through too firmer area, or you don't have very good quality pins, which I hope they're not from Bernina Tauranga. So there you have it. I've pinned it all the way around, and I'm just going to show you what I mean about that neckline. Here, if I had done it the other way around, I would have ended up with that gorgeous little piping showing on the right side, and then that would be on the inside. So if you don't want much of your binding showing, you could do that method and do it the opposite way around, and you'd end up with that nice piping on the right side. Okay? So now I'm going to show you how to stitch that. So I use my number 10 top stitch foot. Now I've tried lots of different feet. This is foolproof and idiot proof. It works so well. So I'm going to put my stitch on 3 length and my needle position to the right, and I'm working on the right side of the fabric, and I always start just before my back neck. Doesn't really matter where, but I always start before my back neck just to have it. Oh no, I don't, beg your pardon, I start from my shoulder seam. What am I saying? For my neck binding, I always start from my shoulder seam. From my armhole, I start from under the armhole. So I put my needle down and I can check that that's how far I want my top stitching, and when I'm happy, all I do is run the bar of my foot, as you can see here, run the bar of my foot along my folded edge of my binding, And I can back stitch when I go back around. I should have at the beginning, but I didn't. And I've got the needle stop down, so the needle's stopping every time. And look, I'm not having to do, honestly, any work. The machine's doing all the work for me. And I haven't pressed it, but you do not need to. I actually choose not to at this stage. Okay, I think it sits so lovely and flat. You don't need to go pressing it and changing how it's sitting, because it sits so well. So this top I was actually making for Glenda, but once we made the pattern we realised that this size medium will be too large. So I would say it's about a 14, the medium, and the small is about a 12, and the large is about a 16, and then on and on. So that's sort of basically their sizing, but just go by your bust measurement for this particular top. And you know what, the length, you can certainly make the length longer if you need to, but this particular one here, this particular top here, for a size 16 lady, that length is really, really, really good. And if I turn this around and just show you the tail part, it sits nicely over the bottom. So it's a good top for that size, and it's got plenty of room for a larger bust there, which obviously I don't have because my top's a smaller size, but so comfortable to wear. We've had lots of comments since we've been wearing them as our uniform, and they're very, 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 very comfortable to wear, I can tell you that. Especially in this heat at the moment, it's nice having a nice cool breezy top. No clinginess and doesn't make you hot at all. So I'm just cutting those threads at the beginning, and I'd forgotten to backstitch, so I'll go past where I started and I will backstitch. It just about went off there, I wasn't thinking what I was doing. Bit of a faux pas. Right, so here's my gorgeous neckline, and remember it's not pressed. It looks fabulous, and I'll hold it down here because I've got a busy top. So there's the neckline. Okay, so now what you do is you turn your top through, and while you're having a break I did one side seam, and now I'm going to do the other side seam and overlock, just so I can show you how to do the hem. A lot of people are a little bit concerned about the hem. Now normally I would sew from the hem up to the sleeve. This pattern actually tells you to sew from the sleeve down to the hem, but what I will tell you to do is make sure you pin those two pieces of hem together so that there's no movement. And you can pin the rest if you like, but will I? No. Let's be honest, I'm not going to do it. It's cotton fabric, it doesn't move, and you don't, only do it if you feel you have to. So 1 centimetre seam, and backstitch because it's under your arm, and just follow it around and make sure you've got your raw edges together, and away you go. Don't need that pin in there anymore, it's sitting beautifully. That's the beauty of cotton fabric, it just doesn't move. So now I'm just going to overlock that seam there, cut that thread. Now when you're using your overlocker, treat this like a straight piece of fabric. Don't go trying to sew around a curve. So when you come up to the curve, I bring the curve and make it straight. So I just bring the curve around to the machine. I don't try and curve around a curve because you'll always miss some of the fabric. So bring the fabric around to suit you. Okay? Now, if it's a tight curve and you're worried about it, then do 1, 2, 3 cuts. Okay? Now, if you're concerned that that's going to come unstitched, then go to your machine and just do a second row of stitching under your arm. A lot of people don't do that, but I often do just a second row of stitching right beside my first row under that arm. See, I've made that a straight piece of fabric now. And what that's done is that's made that nice and strong for you. And then you don't have to worry if you've clipped it. Actually, I'll do the same at the other end because this will be sold, this top. So I'll make sure I've already clipped that one. See there? So I've done 3 clips and I'm just going to re-stitch that little piece. Isn't it funny? You automatically do things when you're sewing and you sometimes forget about it, and I'm glad I remembered that because I forgot that in class. It's not something I normally do, but if you're worried and you want to have a little bit more room under that arm, just clip it and reinforce that seam. So my stitching is just beside my last lot of stitching. Okay? Now to finish the sleeve, you do exactly the same as the neckline, but I'll just quickly show you how you do the hem, because some people get a bit worried about doing the hem. So the first thing I would do would be to press my side seam towards the back of my garment. And I'm not going to do all the hem, I'll just quickly show you. Just have those seams back towards the back. Okay, now when you're doing a hem for this, do not overlock it. Do not overlock it because you're going to turn it up twice. So you're just going to lay it down and you're going to turn up 1/4 of an inch or a 6 millimeters. So I just simply turn my fabric up, and you can get a little measuring gauge out if you like. Never going to happen, Robin. So I just turn up that little 1/4 of an inch or 6 mils and work your iron around. Might be more 7 mils or 8 mils, but make sure it's even anyway, and work it around like so. And then once I've done all around, then I go back and I double fold, so it just gets a second fold. And mine always end up, whatever the first fold is, it's the same all the way around for the second fold, because it just naturally goes the right way, and then I top stitch. Okay, so mine's actually more a centimetre, but it's hot. But I'll just show you. So I've turned it up once and then I turn it up again, and that's all you do. Turn it to the right side to top stitch. So turn it up once, turn it up again, and then turn it to the right side to top stitch. So I turn it right over here to top stitch. There's my fold. I'll put a pin in it to show you. And this top has been designed beautifully. You don't get any tucks or any pulls. She's shaped it very, very, very well. So remember to go onto her website, Sew to Grow, and you can have a look at some of her tutorials. So once I've done that, see how nice and flat it's sitting, and then I just put my straight stitch foot on and top stitch around with 3 length. And there you have your beautiful top. So I think it's a brilliant, brilliant idea, and it's super, super, super easy. So that's going to be a very pretty top. I'll send you both all a photo when I've finished it. So there you go. Now, what I want to show you now is something totally different, because I have got a new grandchild, and I was making a pouch for my daughter to put her nappies in when she goes out shopping or whatever. And I thought about it, and it's a really good pouch for you ladies to make for your car. So I'm making myself a pouch. So I'm going to take off my thread here and put my white thread on. Now, my white thread here is quite big, so I'm going to use my extra thread stand, and I'm going to put my plastic on there and my thread on there so it holds my thread on really well. And I'm just going to change this to white thread to show you. So I just want to show you a couple of little things, because I think this is a really, really, really good little pouch to make. So I've got my thread stand up there, and it sits, see how it sits in there really nicely? So I'll just put this in here. We've got some persistent people ringing thinking we're open Saturday afternoons, but we're not. So excuse the phone. The needle threader is brilliant. Now I'm going to put my machine onto zigzag, because the first thing I'm going to be doing is sewing on by Velcro, should I say. Now, first of all, I'll show you the pouch. But this one's nearly finished. So what it is, basically, is one piece of fabric quilted, another piece of fabric as the lining here, and 2 pockets. And I've got a spine in here. We sew Velcro to each end, and what my daughter does is she puts nappies on one end, a nappy bag with a nice smelly thing in the other, and some baby wipes and some hand sanitizer, and then Velcros that up and off she goes. So she can go to the gym or do whatever they're doing, and she's got something to change the baby if she needs to. But my theory was, don't having a baby to take out, thank goodness, I am going to make myself one. This is going to be the outer of my pouch, and I've just got a lining of wadding in here. So you just can use something nice and light. This is just a piece of wool wadding I had left, but I could just use Palin or Low Loft or something very, very light. And I lined the bottom of my pouch, so that will be all quilted, okay? And for my lining, I've chosen this gorgeous fabric because I love it, Tula Pink, and I have interfaced my whole piece. In fact, I'll just give it another little light go. So I've interfaced the back. I have making my spine out of my outer fabric, and I have just put a little piece of interfacing through the middle. No, I haven't. I have just folded this one 3 times. Sometimes I put interfacing in the middle, just 3 times. You've got a raw edge on the back, doesn't matter, because it's going to get stitched down through that spine. The spine does not get stitched on until it goes on the backing, okay? So this is my spine, and it just gets pinned on, but it doesn't get stitched on. But what does get stitched on are my pieces of Velcro. So I've given you the measurements to stitch, where to stitch these Velcro. You can see I've measured it nice and evenly all the way around. And when I'm doing Velcro, I have told you before, I use a zigzag instead of a straight stitch. So I'm just going to put it on the machine setting, which happens to be 3 and 1.5, and take my pins out as I go. Well, let's move that before it goes off. And so that's how I do it. I just zigzag these on. It's the quickest thing you'll make. In fact, I'm just going to trim that off. It's a little bit long towards the end because you've got to sew binding on there. I don't want that too close to the end. And I will cheat sometimes and machine stitch the binding on, but never ever would I do that on a quilt. But after making a few of these, I've decided I wouldn't really go to the trouble of hand stitching the binding on. I think I would rather machine stitch, and I'll explain that to you in a minute, and I'll show you the binding. On this table, the machine doesn't move, but it makes a bit of a shuddery sound. It won't do that on your horn sewing cabinet because it's just a small little table. And when I go fast, can you hear it? I apologise. Needle down, turn and go here and back stitch. So your Velcro is really, really important to have that on really well, and you'll get a much better result, especially on the hook side, which is the hook side with zigzag. On this side you could straight stitch it, but why bother? Because I am just going to be stitching it on with a zigzag as well. Honestly, you don't need to make them different. I'll slow down so it's not so noisy for you. And I'm using a pale pink, which is really, really pretty. And I'm just sewing it in white because that's what I happen to have beside me. But you can get Velcro in so many pretty colours now. Okay. There we go. Now the pockets actually get stitched on next. So you don't do them last. You do the Velcro and the pockets, and then you sew it onto your backing. And I'll show you the pockets. I'll just undo one of those ones actually, because I've already overlocked them. There we go. Oh, one more stitch. Not far enough. There we go. And then come down and back stitch, and there you have your Velcro. Not used to that needle knot up. So you can see there clearly the little zigzag around the edge holds it really, really well. So if you've had trouble with sewing Velcro on, make sure you use zigzag. Okay? Now, so that's step number 1, or step number 2, because you've put the interfacing on the back. Then you sew your Velcro on per the measurements. Now for the pockets, how silly of me, I meant to leave one of these open, so I'll just open one. For the pocket, don't watch my unpicking skills because they're very naughty. Robin's unpicking skills are very bad. An unpick is quite a good idea, but this has just been long stitched, so it doesn't matter. So what you're going to do is you are going to stitch them with the wrong sides together and overlock across the bottom. So I just want to open this up to show you. Just about there. So here we have it. So this pocket has just had the wrong sides together and overlocked. So that's just neatened the two edges together. And I'll open this up to show you. And here's your two pieces of pocket. So you've got your pocket just like that, and your Velcro sewn on the end, and just lay it down, right side to right side, stitch all the way down, and fold your pocket up. So it's a very, very simple pocket. I'm going to get a square of fabric and show you, because it's much easier if you see the bigger piece of fabric. That was my fault for forgetting to get it out. Here we are. So I'll just press this to show you. So if I'm making this into a pocket, it will be that width. This will be a smaller pocket just to show you. I'll fold the wrong sides together, like so. Make it clearer for you, and I will overlock that. So one half of that I want you to interface, and then you overlock that half. Oh, black overlocking. It's going to be cut off anyway. At least you'll be able to see it very well. Actually, it's a good idea. Really good idea. I should do that more often. Right, so pretend that's my pocket. I would get my lining here, and I would draw a line across here to where I want my pocket. So I would have it, it's in the notes, I think it's about 1.5 centimeters up from the Velcro. Your pocket is facing away from your pouch, and you would pin and stitch across the end here, and then fold your pocket up. So obviously I'll make a deeper pocket like that. So once again, here's my pouch. My pocket is facing away from the center. I stitch down where my pins are, and then I fold my pocket up like that. Okay, is that nice and clear? So when you see it on this one, I have stitched my pocket down, and then I flip my pockets up. I should have used a contrast so you'd see it better. Okay, so right side to right side. And then you've got a nice firm pocket, and it's nice and even. So I'll finish stitching this down actually now that I've pulled it all to bits. And I'll just stitch down there. Handy. Oh, I was going to say handy. I've got white on the machine, not black. That was pretty good. And I'm going to actually just do zigzag there because I pulled that apart because I was a bit naughty. So I'm just going to use zigzag there and just make that a little bit stronger, seeing as I pulled it. And I've already sewn my binding on. So that's just securing my little pocket. Cool. Now, so with this binding method, This is a 2.5 inch strip of fabric. So let's pretend I have got this all quilted. I lay the wrong side facing up and it's all quilted. I have my pockets and my bindings all done, my pockets and my Velcro all done. This is my spine. This is the only thing I secure to my outer. So I will pin through all the layers. Okay, like that. And I'll edge stitch down both sides, just like this. So I've edge stitched down one side and I've edge stitched down the other side. Okay? Then I get 2 strips of fabric, 2.5 inches wide, and you can press them together if you like. I don't, but you can press those in half. I'll do it because I have been playing around with this for a few days, so it's getting a little bit soft. So you can press your pieces together. I don't actually press that folded edge, I'm just pressing this other edge. I like a very soft finish on this, so I don't do that. And for this one I actually have got it so it's going to be hand stitched, but you know what, for these I think you're better to do the method where you machine stitch them, which I've shown you, but I'm just going to show you the width you use. Okay, so I'm just pressing that just very gently. Now when you're going to be sewing a binding like this, I have shown you this so many times, but for anybody new I'll just show you a corner again. I am sewing not a 1/4 inch seam, but I'm sewing my foot width. And for this one in particular, I've sewn it from the right side, but I want you to sew it from the wrong side and top stitch it to make it easy. So I'll just show you the corner. Just come up here, straight stitch, needle stop down function on, brilliant. You're going to stop whatever width you are sewing, you're going to stop that width from the end, needle down, lift your foot up and sew out to your corner. Okay, back stitch, take your work out, and let's show you this once again, even though I've done it many times. Because you've stitched it and you fold it up, it's going to be softly folded down and everything's nice and even. You have a little 90-degree angle there and you sew all the way down, you've got a perfect mitre. It's a brilliant, brilliant thing. You've actually got it in the notes I've sent you, or you got picked up at Bernina Club because they how to do a mitered corner, and that's a Bernina out of the Bernina book. Okay? Now what it means is, I'll just show you one end. What it means is when you fold this over, get rid of my tails, this has been handled quite a lot in the last few days. Because you've folded it in the correct way, when you fold it to the right side, that whichever side you're going, it forms a perfect mitre. See, so there it is there, and then this comes over and you've got a perfect mitered corner. So I love this method. Now this particular one, I would normally hand stitch this, and I'm going to, but from now onwards, when I make these, I'm going to sew my binding from the wrong side and then machine it to the right side. So I'm going to change the way I've done this, because really this is going to be handled a lot and it's going to have Velcro opening and closing. It'll be much better to be top stitched from the right side. Okay, so for this one I will have to hand stitch it, but from now onwards I'm going to do it the other way. Now if you turn it around, can you see all I've done for my quilting is I've just freehand stitched around my shapes, nothing hard at all. But the reason why I want to make myself one for the car is because I want to put wet wipes in there, I want to put maybe some hand sanitizer, maybe some tissues, because I never have enough when I go to the funerals that I go to, and I'm going to be sensible and have them in my car, and I'm going to put in my glove box. So I've got everything I need in my glove box. So don't think it's just something to make for babies, make yourself one. So let's see what you can produce out of those, and please send me photos. I love seeing what you do with what I've shown you. And so when you're finished, all you do is Velcro that together and you've got a nice tidy pouch to take things in. All right, so I hope you've been a little bit inspired, and we'll see what we can come up with for next month. Actually, it's already in the pipeline. So have a really good month, and I will see you in March.